The horror box. The window drummers. It started 3 nights after the storm, when the wind still whistled through cracks in the siding. At first, I blamed branches, debris, the sound of nature trying to reclaim silence from the chaos that had passed. But the noise came back. Not the creaking of wood or scratching of trees. It was rhythmic. Soft, deliberate taps against my window pane, spaced evenly, like someone counting seconds, testing whether I'd react or ignore it completely. I turned on the light. Nothing there. The yard shimmered with rain, dark grass and broken branches, empty as far as the fence line. I told myself the house was settling. I forced myself back to bed. The next night, the tapping returned, louder this time, like knuckles pressed lightly against glass. I sat up, frozen, heart beating out of sync with the slow, deliberate rhythm echoing from the far corner of my bedroom. When I finally looked, the curtain swayed slightly from the open window's draft. Beyond it, nothing. No figure, no reflection. Just that faint sense of being watched, so thick it turned the air cold against my skin. I closed the window, locked it, and moved to the couch. Yet even there, the pattern followed. Tap, pause, the sound relocating from window to window, circling the house with impossible patience and precision. I checked every lock, every door. Nothing out of place. The next morning, fine smudges covered the glass, small, like fingertips pressed carefully, deliberately. Not children's hands. Longer, thinner, tracing circles near the latch. By the 4th night, I recorded the sounds. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the tapping began. I played the audio back the next day. What I thought was tapping was joined by faint breathing, measured, human, just outside the glass. I filed a police report. They walked the perimeter, found footprints, shallow impressions leading to the woods behind the house, then stopping abruptly. Probably animals, they said. But animals don't tap in patterns. Animals don't breathe in sync with you. The 5th night, I stayed up waiting. 3:05 a.m. silence. 3:07 a.m. the tapping began. This time from the kitchen window. I crept down the hallway, lights off, peering just above the counter. Something pale stood outside, too tall, head tilted. The face pressed slowly against the glass, leaving a fogged imprint where a mouth should have been. I stumbled back, flashlight flicking on just long enough to see it retreat, not walking, but lowering straight down, out of sight like a puppet on invisible strings. After that, it escalated. They, or it, began experimenting. Some nights it would knock against the back door instead, or brush the siding with what sounded like cloth or rope. Once, I woke to find the living room blinds raised halfway. Every morning, new marks, handprints on glass, dirt smudges near the lock, always outside, always gone by sunrise. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, just small tokens left behind to prove reality hadn't dissolved into paranoia. I started setting up cameras. Infrared, motion sensors, everything. The first night, all feeds cut at 3:06 a.m. sharp. When footage resumed at 3:15, every window curtain in the house was drawn open. I sleepwalked, I thought, but my keys were still in my hand. A week passed with no sounds. I relaxed slightly, thinking maybe the storm or stress had done it. Then, one night around 2:50, I noticed something new. The tapping now came from inside the walls. The rhythm unchanged, but deeper, closer. I tore apart drywall, found nothing but insulation. Yet the moment I stopped, the tapping began again, softer this time, directly from the bedroom window, like a taunt, like laughter held behind glass. I nailed the windows shut, covered them with boards, moved a dresser in front of the largest one. That night, silence. For the first time in weeks, silence so heavy it made my ears ache. I slept for nearly an hour. Then the phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just static at first. Then a whisper. You forgot one. Before I could move, the boards on the bedroom window rattled violently. Something pushing from the outside, testing the nails, feeling for weak spots. I screamed. Nothing broke through. But the next morning, every nail was loosened halfway, bent outward as if pried by something patient, deliberate, and impossibly strong. They could have entered, but they hadn't. They were still testing. I told friends. None believed me. One offered to stay overnight. He lasted 3 hours before leaving. Pale, silent, refusing to speak of what he heard near the windows at 3 a.m. He blocked my number the next day. Eventually, exhaustion took over. I stopped reacting, stopped documenting. The tapping continued, growing slower, softer, almost tender, as if whoever was out there was disappointed I'd stopped playing their game. Now, months later, I still live here. The windows are sealed, locks reinforced. But some nights, especially when the wind dies completely, I hear the faint rhythm again. Tap, pause, tap, always at the same time, always in perfect cadence. It isn't random. It never was. I've come to understand the pattern is a test. Once you recognize it, they know. Once you listen too long, they start moving closer. It's not the noise that matters. It's your reaction. They feed on attention, on acknowledgement. They push until you break that boundary, the one between observation and invitation. I haven't opened a window in months. I can't risk letting them in. I don't even look toward the sound anymore. But sometimes, just before dawn, I swear I hear it from the other side of the room. Soft fingers against wood, patient and precise. They've stopped tapping the glass because they don't need to anymore. They're already inside. If you ever hear that sound, resist every instinct to look. Don't record it. Don't speak. Don't even breathe too loudly. They're waiting for acknowledgement. They're waiting for you to play. And once you do, they never stop. The horror box. The fence line visitors. It began just after midnight, when the yard lay silent under a silvered moon. I had returned from work hours earlier, yet the air felt off, charged with the sense that something deliberate and unseen was lingering just beyond the fence. A soft crunch of gravel drew my attention. I froze, staring through the blinds. Nothing moved. No animal, no neighbor, just shadows that seemed heavier than ordinary, shifting subtly in patterns that made my skin crawl and my heart race uncontrollably. I convinced myself it was imagination, though every instinct screamed otherwise. I double-checked all doors and windows, ensuring each lock was secure, yet the oppressive sense of observation refused to lift. Something or someone was testing my boundaries carefully, deliberately. 10 minutes later, a thump against the fence made my pulse spike. I crept toward the sliding door, peering into the yard. 3 figures crouched at the far edge, tall and unnervingly still, their featureless masks catching slivers of moonlight as if waiting for me to notice. I grabbed my phone to call a friend. The line was dead. No dial tone, no signal. When I set it down, they had vanished. My heart thundered in my chest. The yard remained silent, yet the sense of being studied only intensified. The next night, I installed motion-activated cameras and infrared lights outside. Nothing triggered the lights. The cameras flickered intermittently, static appearing when I scanned the feeds. Shadows moved at angles that defied explanation, as if invisible eyes were pacing along the perimeter. By the third night, their presence became bolder. Soft tapping along the fence, footsteps over gravel, all timed with precision. I could sense their patience, how they measured every reaction, every movement I made. It wasn't playful. It was methodical terror. I attempted traps, flower along thresholds, sticks arranged to catch movement. Each morning, the flower was gone. the sticks untouched. Only small notes appeared, typed and precise. Watching you, counting steps. I hadn't left the house, yet they somehow knew everything. Sleep became impossible. I stayed in the living room with lights on, chair wedged under the door, flashlight in hand. The taps, the scratches, the rhythm of movement outside never ceased. They observed without entering, measuring without contact, driving fear deeper each night. I began documenting anomalies. Hinges slightly reversed, locks subtly manipulated, objects shifted. No forced entry, no theft, just meticulous intrusion meant to destabilize, to make me anticipate, and to mark territory without leaving fingerprints or traceable evidence behind. One night, at 2:37 a.m., I saw them. 3 figures crouched along the fence line, stiff, unnatural postures, blank pale masks reflecting the minimal light. They did not move. They did not speak. They only observed, synchronized in stillness, patient and deliberate. I tried to leave doors open, hoping to confront or catch them. At 2:47 a.m., the handle turned softly, then stopped. Footsteps approached the threshold and paused. I shivered, flashlight trembling in hand, realizing their calculations extended to seconds. Every heartbeat of mine noted and memorized. Weeks passed. The visits increased in subtlety and intensity. Gloves left on doorknobs, stones arranged along the flower bed in precise patterns. Nothing valuable taken. The message was clear. They wanted me alert, watching, fearful, trapped in anticipation each night until dawn. I moved temporarily to a friend's house. The tapping followed, softer, further away, but unmistakable. Their rhythm was familiar. Distance offered no protection. They could follow, measure, and provoke from anywhere within observation. I had no escape. Every night, I slept lightly in the living room, flashlight clutched, bat ready. Even so, soft drags, taps, subtle movements outside forced attention. Each noise tested reactions, refined their knowledge of my behavior, feeding a cycle of paranoia I could not break. Months later, I remained vigilant. Doors and windows checked constantly. Yard empty in daylight, yet shadows, sounds, and subtle movements continue nightly. Observation is precise, patient, unrelenting. I anticipate their visits even when alone in other rooms. Locks, fences, even the faint sound of wind are measured against my fear. The pattern is exact, a rhythm of terror designed to keep me anxious, alert, and isolated. Every small anomaly is a reminder that they are always outside, always calculating, always testing. They never enter. They never touch. They do not steal or speak. Their method is psychological dominance, a patient and calculated intrusion into every sense, every routine, every heartbeat of mine, leaving me perpetually trapped in anticipation. I live in constant tension, anticipating the precise moment a tap or scrape will echo across the yard. Every evening, fear becomes routine, a measured companion. Sleep is a distant memory, replaced with awareness, vigilance, and the unshakable certainty of observation. If you hear a soft tap in the night, footsteps pacing deliberately, or subtle shifts in objects outside your home, do not investigate. They do not need you to see them. They only need you to know they are watching. Always. They never steal. They never attack. They only test. They only wait. And they always, always see everything. The horror box. The night they tested the locks. It started quietly, shortly after midnight, with a soft click from the front door deadbolt. Every door was locked, yet the sound echoed through the hallway. My heart pounded as I froze, listening for more signs of movement, fearing the worst. The house was still and silent, yet the air felt heavier than usual. I grabbed a flashlight and crept down the hall, inspecting every door. All remained locked, but the oppressive sense of someone inside refused to fade. Then came the faintest rustle, like cloth dragged across the floor. My body froze again. The sound had come from the living room. I inched forward, knife gripped tightly, anticipating the worst, but finding only shadows that seemed too deliberate to be natural. I set up 8 cameras throughout the house, motion activated with infrared for night vision. The first night yielded nothing. By the second, bursts of static obscured the feed in every room until the entire system went dark, as if they knew exactly how to remain invisible. By the third night, they had learned my patterns. One camera briefly captured a pale, featureless face behind me. I spun around. Empty room, shadows unmoved. Still, the air carried the sense of being observed, calculated, and patient beyond human understanding. I slept in the living room, wedging a chair under the door handle, lights on, flashlight ready. Taps and scrapes echoed outside. Every creak, every whisper of movement forced my chest to tighten. They didn't break in, they tested, measured, and waited. Each morning revealed subtle changes. Doorknobs reversed, hinges slightly rotated, drawers shifted without explanation. There was no forced entry, no theft, only evidence of calculated intrusion. A silent survey of my house and habits, performed without leaving traceable proof. Small notes began appearing on counters and under mats. Nice locks. Checked the back one. Their message was clear. They were observing, measuring boundaries, keeping me awake, tracking reactions to everything I did inside my own home, instilling fear without touching a thing. I became obsessive. I checked every lock and window multiple times daily. Still, each night they persisted. One lock undone, objects shifted, precise measurements of my reactions left me unable to rest. My routine had become a blueprint for their experiments. I tried traps. Flower along thresholds, obstacles, small distractions. Every morning, flower vanished. Obstacles moved, rearranged. No evidence, only the certainty they had been there. They were meticulous. They were patient. And they enjoyed seeing my paranoia escalate. They never stole anything. They never attacked. Their goal was control and measurement. Every lock undone, every hinge tampered with, every object shifted was a message. We are here. We know you. You cannot escape. Sleep became impossible. Flashlight clutched. Knife in hand, I waited each night. At 2:47 a.m., a metallic clink sounded the handle turned. I froze. Their timing was precise. They studied every reaction, cataloging each movement, every twitch of fear in meticulous detail. By dawn, they vanished. Footprints, scratches, and gloves neatly arranged outside remained as reminders. They did not steal. They did not harm. They only measured, leaving a rhythm, a pattern of terror that made every sound afterward feel like observation. I attempted to leave the house. Tires were flattened. Doors locked. Glances toward the yard revealed shadows flitting along the fence. Objects subtly shifted. No entry, yet psychological torment was total. My home had become their laboratory, my fear their experiment. I called a friend to stay. He witnessed them standing silently, pale masks reflecting dim light. He refused to stay, leaving me alone again. Panic became permanent. Every night I anticipated taps, scrapes, movement, never knowing which door or object would be tested next. I slept only sporadically, living room corner, flashlight across lap. Subtle taps, soft drags, shifts outside persisted. Each action was designed to provoke fear, refine their measurements, adjust to my reactions. The smallest sound became unbearable. Months later, I remained vigilant. Doors checked multiple times, locks examined constantly. They are always outside, always testing. The fear has become permanent, a part of my routine. My nights are ruled by anticipation of calculated terror. They never steal. They never attack. They only test. They only wait. And they always observe. The horror box. The backyard figures. It began just after midnight, when the house should have been quiet. I was rinsing a cup in the kitchen when a soft, deliberate crunch echoed outside the sliding glass door. I froze, heart hammering, expecting an animal, but nothing moved. The yard lay in pale moonlight, still and silent. The wind whispered through the trees, but something about it felt deliberate, controlled. Shadows shifted along the fence line, lingering too long to be natural, as if someone was studying my every move. I laughed nervously, telling myself it was imagination. I double-checked locks and windows before returning to the kitchen, yet the unease in my chest did not dissipate. Something or someone was out there, waiting, testing, watching, invisible but intentional in every sound. 10 minutes later, a thump against the fence made me jump. It was soft but purposeful, timed like a heartbeat. I peeked through the blinds. 3 tall figures stood perfectly still near the far corner of the yard, hidden in shadow, observing without movement or sound. I grabbed my phone and called my sister. She laughed it off, thinking I was overreacting. I ended the call and peered again. They had vanished, leaving only empty yard and moonlight, but the feeling of being watched deepened. That night, the noises escalated. Footsteps circled the house, light thuds against the siding, soft scratches along the deck. I tried calling the police, but every landline and cell was dead, as though the world outside had paused, leaving me isolated and entirely exposed. I paced the living room, gripping a bat, listening for every creak. The air felt thick, charged. Something had entered my yard multiple times, mapping, testing. The idea of anyone moving silently in my property left me frozen in a corner, watching shadows as my heart raced. The next morning, I found a single white glove on the stone border of the flower bed. I had never seen it before. My hands shook when I touched it, but I left it untouched, knowing whoever or whatever placed it had calculated every second of my response. I tried to ignore it. I told myself pranksters, neighborhood kids, or imagination. But that night, the sounds returned. Scratches along the deck, thumps along the siding, patterns that seemed intentional. It was no longer playful. They were teaching me to anticipate, to fear, to react. I installed motion lights, cameras, and alarms. None of it worked. The lights never triggered. The cameras glitched. Alarms stayed silent. Yet I could feel them outside, pacing, timing, testing, always moving just out of reach, leaving traces only visible if I looked closely. By the third night, they had learned my habits. One camera captured a pale face briefly, featureless, inches behind me. I spun around. Empty room, shadows unmoved, yet the air felt dense, watched, manipulated to keep my nerves frayed, my sleep impossible. I slept in the living room, wedging a chair under the door handle, lights on, flashlight ready. Scratches and tapping came from outside. Every noise made my chest tighten. They weren't trying to break in, yet the knowledge they could had me trapped in paranoia. Each morning, I found subtle changes. Doorknobs reversed, hinges slightly rotated, drawers shifted. No forced entry, no theft. Only evidence they had been inside or close enough to manipulate objects and measure my reactions without leaving traceable evidence. Notes appeared, small and typed, on counters or under mats. Nice locks. Check the back one. They were observing, testing, marking boundaries, keeping me awake, anxious, tracking reactions to everything I did in the house. An invisible survey of fear. I became obsessive, checking every lock, every window multiple times daily. Still, they persisted, opening one lock each night, moving objects slightly, measuring how I responded. My routine became a blueprint for their experiments. Every breath, every glance scrutinized. I tried traps, flower along thresholds, minor obstructions, objects left as bait. Every morning, flower was gone, obstacles shifted or removed with precision. No evidence, only the reminder that I was being studied, tested, and evaluated by meticulous intruders. They weren't stealing. They weren't violent. They wanted control, measurement, psychological dominance. Every lock undone, every hinge tampered was a message. We are here. We know you. You cannot ignore us. I slept only sporadically. I moved constantly, flashlight clutched, bat in hand. At 2:47 a.m., a metallic clink echoed, a handle turning. I froze, realizing the intruders were observing my every reaction. They timed everything. Every pause, every glance, every heartbeat was cataloged. By dawn, they vanished. Footprints, scratches, gloves neatly placed on outdoor surfaces remained. A pattern emerged, a rhythm to the madness. I had learned. They did not enter to steal, but to measure, to drive fear deep into my consciousness until I could barely breathe. I tried to leave. Car tires flattened, doors locked. I peeked outside. Shadows flitted along the fence. Objects subtly shifted, tools rearranged. No trace of actual entry, just psychological torment. Every action outside reinforced that my home was their domain. I called a friend to stay. He saw them, standing silently, blank pale masks reflecting moonlight. He refused to stay, leaving me alone, trapped under their gaze. My panic became permanent. Every night, I expected taps, drags, movement, and never knew which door, window, or object would be tested. I slept in living room, cornered, flashlight across lap. Subtle taps, drags, shifts, all outside, but relentless. They studied my fear, adjusted with every reaction. Even the smallest movement provoked a response. They measured every breath, heartbeat, glance. I stopped moving objects, stopped leaving doors open. I waited for 2 a.m. for the tapping, the dragging, the soft, precise observation. Months later, I hear them outside. I do not leave doors unlocked. I do not check windows. I exist in fear, anticipating, measured. They never steal. They never enter. They only test. They only wait. They always watch.